So describe how the burning of the Reichstag, which is the Capitol building in Germany, okay, was a way for Hitler to reach more power in Germany. Also explain the significance of the 1936 Olympic Games. That was held in Berlin. So there you go. There you go. So give you some time working on that. Thanks, Parker. I'll forget. All right, okay. So we talked about Hitler's rise to power, okay, and we mentioned about how at first he tried to violently overthrow the Weimar Republic, and it didn't work out for him. Okay, we talked about how he was thrown in jail, wrote a famous book while in jail, Mein Kampf. He detailed about how he's going to bring Germany back to where it needs to be, right? Back to becoming a world power, and shifting the blame on a few groups of people, right? And with that, he detailed about the Aryan race, the Aryan culture of Germany. Okay. So with that, right, we talked about how he gained support to a point where he ran for president and he lost. Right. But he gained a lot of popularity amongst the people to a point where Hindenburg appointed him as what? Honor. Chancellor. Yeah, good job. So with that, as chancellor, he is the head of government, okay, of the Weimar Republic. All right, so okay, as the head of government here, the Reichstag, the Capitol building, bursts up in flames. And this is just creating a lot of chaos, a lot of anarchy for a troubled state already. We already mentioned about Germany going through this depression and how hyperinflation was causing Germany to go through a lot of struggles, right? And we all know that Hindenburg dies, right? So rather than having another vote for president, having another election, he decided to issue enabling acts, right? So this enabling act prompted him as a supreme leader, the Führer, the dictator, okay? And that's where we left off, okay? So we did talk about how he actually got Germany back on its feet, so to speak, when it comes to its economy, right? So he got people back to work. Okay? He was raising the standard of living for all the German people. He curbed inflation, which was helping the German economy, right? But with that, we also talked about some of the harsh realities, some of the terrible events that led shortly after his leadership, and kind of unfolding his master plan from the very beginning. So we also talked about the Nuremberg laws, 1935. So what was the Nuremberg laws? What were they? What did they do? This is a term. Paul, go ahead.
Segregated Jews from regular.
Yeah, good job, right? So causing this division in German society here and making sure that the Jewish people had to wear Star of David whenever they walked throughout the streets. So putting that on their jackets, on their shirts. Also putting the Star of David in the windows of their homes, of their businesses, and prompting German citizens to stay away, right? To not purchase their items, to not purchase their goods. So thinking that these businesses would just run out of steam eventually, right? If no one's buying their goods, no one's buying their products, eventually that business is going to fail. And also targeting these citizens as they're walking down the streets, trying to embarrass, humiliate them, and pushing them out of society from the very beginning. Also, it forbade any type of relationship between any German citizens or Jewish people within Germany. So obviously, building on that disconnection here, building on that segregation within German society to try to push these Jewish people out of Germany. All right, so with that, okay, just a year later, after the Nuremberg laws were created, the Olympic Games were held in Germany. Okay, so with the Olympic Games, the United States, well, hearing about the Nuremberg laws, they weren't for it. And it came to a point where they were actually sitting on the sideline here, actually maybe preventing any of their athletes from joining this Olympic Games because a lot of the hardships placed on Jews and a lot of these other minority groups, okay, within Germany. Right? But for Hitler and the Olympic Games held in Berlin, what was his goal? What was his objective? To show the world what? Go ahead, Paul. Okay, yeah, good job. So the ideology here and also the nationalism built back up in Germany. So everywhere you walked in the streets of Berlin and really all throughout the country, there are Nazi flags hanging from everybody's houses. Right? What else? So what?
To show the strength of that area population.
Yeah, good job, right? So his goal was to try to show the world that Germany is now this beacon, right, of hope for the rest of the world when it comes to this depression that hit all around the world. Right, so yeah, this depression crippled societies, countries all around the world, and for Germany, as there seemed like they're escaping it under his leadership, it seems like that this is this place of opportunity, this place of hope for the rest of the world, and that Hitler is the one leading this charge. Okay, they created these huge stadiums for the Olympic Games, and these works of art, literally for the games and to show the world again where Germany's come, right? Even after these restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles, even after the hardships that Germany had to go through after World War One, they are now kind of leading this charge. They escaped this depression. People have this extreme nationalism for the Nazi Party. Okay, it just seems one. Right. There was a specific story, though, right, in the 1936 Olympic Games, and that was with Jesse Owens. Okay. So Jesse Owens, he was a famous runner. Okay. He won many gold medals and shattered records at this Olympic Games. And as an African American, winning these events, okay, right in front of Hitler's eyes, this was going totally against his ideology, these Aryan beliefs, his Aryan ideology. It came to a point where he wanted to meet him, and Hitler wanted to meet Jesse Owens to congratulate him. And Jesse Owens said, nope, ain't gonna do it. So that was a good, nice spit in the face, right? So one thing to note though, what country won the Olympic Games here in 1936? Connor, Germany did, right? So I guess this is a way for him to carry on these ideology, these thoughts, these beliefs that, hey, they are this Aryan culture. All right, so shortly after, we're going to talk about Kristallnacht more tomorrow, okay, and how this master plan of trying to divide Germany and try to rid Germany of this Jewish population and the minority groups is starting to arise even more and getting more aggressive, okay. All right, so is there any questions here? All right, so today we're going to transition, talk about the Hitler Youth. So as Hitler's coming in charge right away, his goal is to try to target the youth, okay. The reason for it is because, well, children more impressionable. Okay, you can really invoke a lot of these ideals and ideologies within their minds, even if they are terrible and just hostile aggression, right? So there you go, Hitler Youth, Indoctrination, and the League of German Girls. There you go. There you go. Bless you. Thank you. All right, so the Hitler Youth, what do we got? What do we got for the Hitler Youth? What do we got? What do we got? Someone, please. Paul, thank you.
The youth group that, a part of the party that taught Nazi beliefs to the French folks.
All right, good job. So through this indoctrination, this is a way for Hitler to try to prepare the next generation of German soldiers, right, for warfare, and at the same time for the next generation to understand the Nazi ideology and to make sure that no opposition, no political opposition could rise and challenge this Nazi ideology. So in many cases here, this is to obviously just have control, full power. And the way to do that for the future generations is to target the youth. If they only are presented to one viewpoint or presented to one ideology, chances are they're not going to accept anything else. They're just going to conform to those beliefs, okay? Especially in this case, this extreme German nationalism, this Aryan culture, this Aryan race mentality. All right, so with the Hitler Youth organizations, these children would be joining in as soon as they are pretty much of age at a very young childhood and perform many duties around the country. A lot of times it's just cleaning up, right? So if there's any trash on the streets or anything like that, for the younger children, they would clean up these cities, right? When it comes to maybe hanging up propaganda that's promoting this Nazi ideologies, yes, hanging up posters and really sharing this ideology to many other people throughout the German communities and cities. A lot of times they would just kind of hail and present Hitler as this god, as this almost this beacon. And the movie Jojo Rabbit really details about that, right? So yeah, I know it exaggerates a little bit, but they view him as this imaginary friend. Like everything that you do in your life has to be in the order of the Nazi Party, or for Adolf Hitler, praising him every chance he gets, right? So when you greet someone, they would march down the street and say, "Hail Hitler!" And just walk down the street and greet someone else. Same thing. Again, promoting this Nazi ideology and promoting this loyalty to the party and to Hitler. All right, so again, as you're moving forward to these camps, then this would be preparing the children for military, military strategies and techniques, operating a weapon, how to clean a weapon, how to make sure that it's operating smoothly, camping out in the elements. Okay, so in other words, this is like Boy Scouts on steroids, literally. How to survive out in the wildlife, how to survive out. Now, let's say if war was to happen. So this would prepare the youth at a very, very young age for warfare, for military strategies and plans. So that when they are of age, obviously when you get later down World War II, total war happens, these kids are literally running out in the middle of the streets with bombs strapped to their chests. It's pretty crazy, pretty wild to think about. But again, showing their loyalty to the Nazi Party and to Hitler. But so these camps were designed to try to prepare the youth for warfare. Also, when it comes to trying to challenge or trying to, let's say, eliminate, right, any type of political ideology that might try to challenge the Nazi viewpoints or ideology or any Jewish written articles or documents, books, right, they would have literally parties and ways to burn these books, to try to destroy it, try to eliminate it from German society. And all acts of good, all acts of really the benefit of this Aryan culture came from the Nazi Party. And so again, trying to destroy this history, okay, of let's say Germany that might not have been through this German nationalism, this Nazi ideology. So book burning of any Jewish articles, Jewish books, or any type of educational materials, right, that might be against the Nazi regime. So these book burning parties would literally happen at these Nazi camps. And also with the Night of Broken Glass, we'll talk about it. There's many events where they just shatter these buildings, okay, these libraries, these museums, these businesses, and destroy literally everything that these Jewish run companies or organizations might have. All right, it came to a point too with race science, right, where the Nazi children were presented different types of stereotypes of Jewish people. So symbolizing, in many cases, the stereotyping of the Jewish people's noses, right, as it seems large, And as it is resembling the sign of the beast, which is number 6. So I know it's crazy, but they would literally target and stereotype many of these Jewish people with these different types of action. What? Okay. So with that, okay, 6 would obviously show up a lot. We all know 666, the number of Satan. All right. Also, when it comes to targeting other different types of racial minority groups, okay, and emphasizing these stereotypes to try to distance themselves from the Aryan culture, the Aryan beliefs of Germany. Okay, it came to a point where the Nazi Party would literally look through and fish out any of these educators, professors, right, that weren't teaching up to the standards of the Nazi beliefs. And even if they were a great professor, teacher, and they weren't teaching these viewpoints, they would be outcast. They would lose their jobs, literally. And this was a way to try to make sure this next generation, right, was prompted with Hitler and his ideology. So with the Hitler Youth, again, for Hitler, this was a way to try to brainwash, indoctrinate the children, and prepare them for warfare, and to build on these stereotypes and really emphasizing this Aryan culture mentality of Germany. The League of German Girls, same thing. Okay, this time the only difference is that they're preparing women for these roles in society in Germany as a housekeeper, as preparing for the man. Obviously, when the men would go to warfare, they would present them with different types of activities, different types of communal practices, okay, to keep them involved. A lot of times preparing for the war effort, let's say working in these situations or these scenarios here to prepare for the war effort. So in many cases, preparing on the home front, right? So that's really what this was all about. So this indoctrination of the Hitler Youth, it's interesting to learn about. It's interesting to talk about because not only did this happen in Germany, this happened in Italy, which we mentioned. It's happened in the Soviet Union, but for the most part, we hear a lot more about it with Nazi Germany here. Okay, all right. So with that, Hitler Youth, I'll show you this movie video here, this trailer of Jojo Rabbit. If you guys get a chance, check it out. It's informative and it's also very emotional. It expresses how these children going through a lot. One thing I want to note before we end here is that after the war, which we'll talk about, okay, this is going to be a very tough thing to do. And for the Allied powers that defeated Germany, it's like, well, how do you try to unbrainwash, right? Unindoctrinate these children? They were literally raised at a very young age since birth to accept this ideology and accept Hitler as this god. And all of a sudden now he's gone and now the war's over, right? How do you try to break that connection? And again, it's very tough to do for a lot of these people.